I'm a fuss budget, as you know, and I like my stuff to come out A1. I'm all about best outcomes and how to get there. One of my favorite ways to make my knits turn out with chef's kiss perfection is using folded hems instead of ribbing on my edges. If you're willing to do just a little bit of extra knitting, excellent. Follow me into the Maker's Lounge and I will show you how to change up your knits with folded hems. I'm Nicole from the Nicole Knits Under the Influence podcast, and this is my tip jar tutorial on folded hems. Yep, I'm super picky about my knitting. I have spent thousands of hours reading, watching, viewing, studying, taking classes, all so that I can get better outcomes from my knitting and figure out what are the best methods for me to get my projects to finish the way I want them to. One of my favorite ways that I've come up with, and I just started doing this in about the last year or so, is changing out the ribbing edges for folded hems. In other words, double-sided hems, just like on a garment, like you would turn up the fabric and sew it. It's the same thing, but you're doing it with your knitting. So you have a double layer at your edges instead of ribbing to finish them off. We'll come back to the sock in a minute. Here's a couple examples of where I used folded edges on my garments instead of the ribbing that was called for in the pattern. This is Bristol Ivy's Throughstone pullover. This is a kit that I had. I really enjoyed knitting it, and I decided that I wanted to use my new favorite technique and put folded edges on it. So I did this really cute folded edge around the neckline, and you can see I did a little contrast color on the edging. I'll show you more about that when we go to the hand cam. I also did folded edges at the cuffs of the sleeves, and by doing that I was able to add in a bit of color work around the edge and have it nice and clean and tidy on the inside because the hem folds up and covers up the back of that color work. So you wouldn't even have to worry about catching your floats. You could just leave them loose because that hem will fold back and cover it up. I did a folded hem at the bottom edge just for consistency, and just for extra credit I did a folded hem at the top of these really cute pockets where you can see the swatch that was done to swatch and test the gauge for the color work was used as the liner for the pocket. Isn't that cute? It just makes the sweater a little extra, and I really enjoy wearing it. I feel very accomplished when I wear this sweater. Another one that I did folded hems on is a test knit that I did for Tin Can Knits years ago, and it had just a bit of a narrow ribbed edge, as you can see in this picture right here. And I wore it like that for a while, but I found it first of all too low, so I knew I wanted to bind off and go back and pick it up and knit some extra rows around the neckline. But then I thought, why don't I do a folded edge? The ribbed edges were starting to look a little ratty. This particular yarn, and I don't remember what it was off the top of my head, didn't hold up very well in the ribbing. It looks fine in the actual body of the sweater, but the ribbed edges, it just doesn't look that great. It got scruffy looking really quickly. So I thought this would be another excellent opportunity to use a folded edge for that V-neck. And I also decided, because the hems at the bottom of the sleeves were looking a little scruffy too, that I would also do folded edges at the bottom of the sleeves. Now, the socks. Another favorite use for folded edges is at the top edge of my socks, and you can do it, doesn't matter if you're doing top down or toe up, it works both ways. I really like the clean finished edge. It's nice and stretchy. I don't like my socks super tall. I don't know for sure how this would work on a super tall sock, if it would be grabby enough around the calf to stay up. I think it would, but I have not tried it. So I don't know. But for my shorty socks, I think it just gives them a really nice, clean, finished edge. And the bonus on this with the color work is that, again, I didn't have to worry about the floats on the color work because it's got a finished backing, like a facing on the inside there. So isn't that cute? It just looks so clean and finished and polished, and they'll wear really well. They won't get stretched out or scraggly or start to break down at the hem edge. Now we're going to go to the hand cam, and I'm going to demonstrate first of all how to do a provisional cast on using a crochet hook. It's my favorite provisional cast on. You can use whatever kind you like, but I thought I'd show you the one that I like to use the most. I just find it the easiest to remove after. And then I'll explain to you how the folded hem works and how to close it up when you're ready to secure that hem, when you're ready to hang it into place. Folded hems are also known as hung hems in mostly the machine knitting industry, although sometimes people call it that in hand knitting too. But I think folded hem to me just sounds more descriptive than hung hem. Let's go to the hand cam. We're going to start by doing a provisional cast on. My favorite provisional cast on is one using a crochet hook to put the stitches directly on the needle, and then the stitches can just be pulled out by undoing that crochet chain later. I just find it super easy to do and to remove. So let's, first thing, we need some waste yarn. So waste yarn is yarn that we're going to use for the provisional cast on, and it will be taken out and tossed out later, which is why it's called waste yarn. You want it to be relatively smooth and approximately the same weight as your project yarn and a nice contrast color. And first we're going to make a slip knot. So let's put a slip knot on the crochet hook. In the event that you're a little intrigued by how I just made that slip knot, I'm going to have a little bonus video for you at the end of this session where I show you how to do that slip knot. Okay, so we've got a slip knot on the crochet hook. Now we're going to, with the working yarn, not the tail, Nicole, we're going to chain about 5 stitches or so. And this is the part where you get to mock my kind of pathetic crochet technique, because I'm not an expert crocheter like I am an expert knitter. I'm just a advanced beginner. So that's the best I can do at the moment. Okay, now we're ready to start putting the stitches onto the needle. So we're going to take the needle here and we're going to place it under the crochet hook and over the waste yarn. And then all we're going to do, whoops, and we're going to keep it there, stay there. All we're going to do is wrap the crochet hook and pull the loop through the hook. Yeah. Oh my God. I really don't describe this well, do I? So wrap around the hook and pull the loop through, and then bring the yarn back around behind the needle. Wrap around the hook, pull the loop through, bring the yarn back around behind the needle, around the hook, pull the loop through, between the hook and the needle, back around behind the needle, around the hook, pull the loop through, back around behind the needle. Okay, you getting the idea? Do you need to see that 27 more times? You probably don't. You can back up this video and take a look at it again if you need to. So now we have some stitches. You'll just keep doing that until you have as many stitches as you require for your cast on. And then you're just going to chain some more stitches on this end. I'm just doing this a bit awkwardly because I have my hands underneath the camera. Okay, that's enough. Now we're going to put the crochet hook down, grab our scissors, cut that tail, and I'm just going to pull it through. Now all we need to do when we're ready to undo this end is cut right through this chain and pull it out. What I'm going to do to make sure that I don't get confused and try to pull the wrong end of the crochet chain is I'm going to take the tail at this end and I'm going to tie a couple of in this tail. See? So now I know this is not the end that I'm going to cut and pull from. Not. Get it? Ha ha. Now all you need to do is take your project yarn and start knitting into those provisional stitches, just the same as if you had cast on a row. I'll just get this first row in here, our tiny little row. There we go. And then I'll show you later how you're going to cut this and just pull these neatly and quickly and easily pull these provisional stitches out one by one off that provisional row. And here we have a little sample folded hem to show you all the sections of how a folded hem works. So you see down at the bottom we have our provisional crochet cast on, and then what you do is you're going to knit however many rows you need for your desired depth of cast on. So in this case I knit 10 rows, and you can see over here that I have used a running marker to count my 10 rows. There's 5 to there and another 5 to there, and then I do a turning row. There's a couple of different ways you can do a turning row. You can also do no turning row. I just find with the turning row it folds over very cleanly and helps you know exactly where to fold it to bring it up to the back side so that both sides of the hem are even. If you don't do a turning row, you'll need to use your running marker to mark where your midpoint is for sure, and it's just going to look a little rounder at the bottom edge instead of this more crisp folded edge because of the purl bumps down here. And the reason that happens is you see on the wrong side where this is all purl and this row is knit, how it just makes a natural indentation because the purl bumps have gone to the other side. And I'll show you an alternative turning row to purl in a minute. Okay, so back to where we were. So 10 rows to here. The 11th row is the turning row. 10 more rows to here, and then you will note that when you finish that 10th row you will have landed on this end ready to work a wrong side row. We actually want to be ready to work a right side row when we go to join our hem facing to our hem, starting from here. So you're going to have to work one extra row on the garment side of the hem. This is the facing side of the hem. This is the garment side of the hem. Don't worry about that too much. One extra row isn't going to make a huge amount of difference. I tend to put the fewer amount of rows into the facing part so that when I bring it up and join them together, this edge turns just a little bit towards the back. You could choose to do the extra row in the facing part and one fewer rows in the garment edge part, and then what will happen is this little lovely purl edge will just sit a tiny bit forward. It's entirely up to you. I find that 99% of the time in blocking it just ends up lying perfectly flat anyway. You saw in all my samples how that worked. Okay, so we've got our rows done, we've got our turning rows, and we're ready to join these together. Now what we're going to do is we're going to either undo this end, and remember, this is the end. We're going to undo not that has knots in it, right? Not this end, this end. And to make my life easier, I will often just cut through that. Does that make you a bit nervous? It's okay if it does. No harm done. Tiny little piece of yarn landed on the table. And then we're going to start, just going to get this. Where's my working yarn? There it is. Get that tail out of the way. And then we're going to start just by pulling out one stitch at a time. We've freed up that first facing stitch by removing it from the chain. We're going to put it on the right needle, drop it onto the left needle, knit those two together. The first one's always a little bit awkward. Then we're going to release the next live stitch off the facing, pick it up with the right needle, put it on the left needle, and my left needle stitch is mounted the wrong way. Let's just fix a couple of these. There we go. Put it on the left needle and knit those two together. Free up one more stitch, put it on the right needle, drop it onto the left needle, and knit together. Let's do one more just so we can get a look at what it's going to look like on the back. Free up one more stitch, put it on the right needle, drop it on the left needle, and knit them together. Okay, so there we are from the front. We're starting to get our faced hem faced, and from the back you'll see that the two layers are being joined together with a row of purl stitches across the top edge. So we would just keep going in that manner, releasing one stitch at a time, putting it on the left needle and knitting them together until you've completed your entire hem edge. Now let's look at a variation of how to do the turning row at the bottom. This is a variation of the turning row that you can do, where you can knit two together, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over across your whole edge, and then carry on just like you did before, again balancing out the stitches in the facing with the stitches in the garment side. And when you fold it over, you get this very cute little picot edge that I like to use. I really like it on kids' clothes, and I also really like it on the top of a sock. My sock here is just a purl turning row, but I have done little picot edges across the top of socks too, and they look really cute. So that, again, very easy. Knit two together, yarn over, knit two together, yarn over, all the way around, and then just carry on as you did before with the other folded row. If you're doing a toe up sock, as this one was, so I started down here and worked my way up this way, you're going to work the outside of the hem first. When we're doing bottom up, we do the facing first and then the outside public facing side of the hem. But for this, we're going to work the public facing side of the hem first, and then we're going to do the facing side, the inside of the hem, second. So you can see for the top of this sock, or for the edge of a sleeve, or any other area where you might be doing this, you can easily put some color work in here on the public facing side, and then the hem is plain and it completely covers up all those floats on the back. So you can just leave them nice and loose. You don't even have to tack them down in behind. And all you would do, it was particularly easy in this case because when I started the hem, I changed color. So it was really easy to find the row that I needed to connect to on the back because it was exactly the row where I changed color. So all I did was pick up a purl bump, each purl bump from that row. This needle is too big for doing this on a sock cage, but you get the idea. So I picked up a purl bump to join together with the live stitches on my hem edge, right? So just pick up one purl bump in that color for each one. If you're not changing color, you will want to find a way to mark that row. So maybe put a lifeline through on the row under it, or knit it together with a contrast color in one row that you'll pull out later, like maybe one row below. I find with socks so often I'm doing stripes or color work or something that it's fairly easy to incorporate one tiny little row of a contrast color or a different color into the work so that I can find my spot. The other thing you could do is you could use running markers more frequently just to make sure that when you're coming across the back that you're staying on the same purl row all the way across. Each time you get to a running marker, you know, that's poking through the side, you'll be able to see that you're on track. On the inside of a neckline edge, you'll have, oh, Oscar's trying to join us. Oscar, are you trying to join us? You want to say hello? Sorry, rare Oscar sighting. On the inside of a neckline edge, you're going to have a ridge of stitches from where you picked up along the outside, because when you pick up neckline stitches, you're doing it from the outside. And Oscar, sorry, he's over here harassing me. He wants a snack. Hang on a moment while I give Oscar a snack. All right, Oscar's had his snack. Now where were we? When you pick up on the outside, you're going through the fabric at least one row below your cast on, and you end up with a little ridge. Sorry for the blur. You end up with a ridge along the inside of the work. So when you fold your neck edge over, you'll pick up one stitch from the ridge for each of your live stitches off your hem and knit them together just like we did for the little demo swatch that we did. So just knit one stitch of the hem facing together with one stitch off that inside ridge all the way around the neckline. You can see it makes a nice clean edge all around, inside and out. Nice, clean and polished. And you see I put a little contrast. Just did a few rows in a contrast color right around on either side of the purl bump. There, that wasn't so bad, was it? Really, it's just some extra rows of knitting plus a knit two together to close the whole thing up and finish your folded hem. It's really not that big a deal, and I find it makes a huge difference to the look of your sweaters when you're done, and they seem to last longer than ribbing. As a bonus today, I've got a little extra credit clip for you on how I did that sneaky slip knot that you saw me do in the hand cam, where you can draw it closed with the working yarn. So hang around for a sec and take a look at that video. While you're still here, if you had a good time today, please give me that thumbs up and subscribe. If you're new to my channel and haven't subscribed yet, you'll get notified when I have new content. And please, in the comments, can you tell me your favorite finishing tips and your favorite finishing resources? If you've got any books or videos or anything that are your go-to for getting your knits as fuss-budgety perfect, I like mine, I'd love to see them. And now, please enjoy the extra credit clip. Extra credit bonus time. If you want a slip knot that draws closed with the working yarn end, not the tail, here's how you do it. Put the tail in your palm so it's dangling out the bottom of your hand. And close up your first 3 fingers, your pinky to your middle finger. Pinch your thumb and forefinger together. Bring the working yarn over towards your fingertips and then over towards your knuckles. And then you're going to take the needle and go under the first strand, over the second strand. Pull everything off the ends of your fingers, and then you'll see the working end tail will be the part of that slip knot that draws it closed, like that. So when you start knitting, you can snug that knot up quite tightly. Fun? You want to see it again? One more time. Tail on the inside of your palm, close your first 3 fingers, pinch together towards the tip, towards the knuckles, under the first strand, over the second strand, slip everybody off the fingers and tighten up. And you're tightening with the working yarn, not the tail. Clear as mud? Have fun. See you soon.